How's it going, laser Bruce's up? I'll be Sixkilla. Welcome back to the Zodiac Trial. It is time for us to continue where we left off. Shit, I can't. It's been a couple of days, unfortunately, because the game's been updating and stuff, getting ready for the release, you know. It's nearly release day, by the way, at the moment of recording. But by the time this goes up, it will have been released for a week, maybe. But anyway, what are we doing? Oh, the ritual. That's right, we did the ritual, and then there was a humongous burst of flames. We're going to try and save Ox first, I guess, and then we'll see what happens after that. What else could I do? I need to get Ox out of there immediately. He was dying in front of my eyes, for Christ's sake. I couldn't leave him to die. I leapt into action, reaching out to try and grab one of his arms. I was able to get hold of one very on-fire arm. In my rush, I didn't even register the first-degree burns I was suffering. Good old adrenaline was keeping me laser-focused. I gave Ox a strong pull towards me, trying to get him out of the way. Unfortunately, it seemed as though Ox wasn't just in the middle of a fire. He was the fire. Rather, he was directly set on fire. Was that oil he was covered in? That thought was fleeting because most of my attention was brought toward the little problem I created. See, in pulling the source of the fire towards me, I'd also brought the fire towards me. My pull was mostly to get him away without regards of how I ended up. And well, to make a long story short, I ended up with Ox directly on top of me. A flaming Ox, for that matter. That sounds pretty cool. A flaming Ox. You can imagine that being on an album cover. Real metal. Oh, I imagine that I tried to push him off, to get away. But at that point, the oil must have gotten on me. The fire had begun to sear my flesh. I was likely so preoccupied with everything that I didn't hear the sound of footsteps leaving the room, of everyone else running away. Cowards. Oh yeah, my attempt to help, I definitely got myself caught in the fire. Fire and a quick death. So as the pain seared my flesh, as I tried to scramble Ox's body off me and crawl away, I also got the joy of choking on all the smoke. Why am I talking about my fate so distantly? To be honest, this one's so gruesome I don't even want to play around with it. I'm fine completely disassociating myself. You know, many consider burning to death to be the third most painful way to die. Second is dying of radiation. Really? That's super painful, is it? And apparently the most painful way to die is a method called scaphism. Scaphism? An old type of execution. With scaphism, the victim would be trapped in a hollowed out tree trunk and force-fed milk and honey until they had horrible diarrhea. Next, the milk and honey would be poured all over the victim, with the eyes and genitals given special care in order to attract insects. So the trunk would be filled with honey and shit and horrible insects, and the victim would just sort of be there, going mad as the insects burrowed into their skin. Whether the victim died of starvation, dehydration, exhaustion, or septic shock is dealer's choice, but whatever the case, it'd be a long and painful process. I still think I'd rather do that than be set on fire. It's really fucking convoluted. And you know, you're gonna have a sweet ass story to tell in the afterlife. Plus, it still doesn't sound as bad as being burned. I really don't want to get burned. And that's apparently the worst way to die. The more you know. Jack of Clubs. A particularly nasty fate, if I do say so myself. The way in which to avoid this is rather obvious. Observing the hellfire which erupted besides her, Mouse should seek to prioritize her own safety above that of some stranger. If Mouse truly wished for Ox not to die, she shouldn't have gone along with that person's ritual. But how could she resist so tempting an offer? She can't and won't, and so if Mouse finds that note, Ox will die. Simple cause and effect. Alright, we'll jump back in, we won't save Ox, and then we should live a little bit longer at the very least. My emotional side wept for Ox. My logical side reasoned that there was no way in hell I was saving him. I mean, at this point he was already engulfed in flames. It just wasn't feasible anymore. I should focus on saving those who are alive, namely myself. In what I could only honestly describe as an act of pure cowardice, I immediately turned away from the fire and ran out of the room, through the door. I would have looked pretty shitty if I was the only one to try something like this. Luckily for me, I was hardly the only coward. In fact, the entire room cleared of people. Every single one of them immediately put as much distance between them and the sudden inferno as possible, running out of the room en masse, screaming all the while. Once we got to safety, we took a moment to stop, take a breath, and realize what had happened. And once we calmed down, we were able to re-enter the room and see what exactly we were dealing with. Inside, we didn't see Ox's corpse. That would be far too kind of a term for what we laid eyes on. No, instead we looked at flaming, charred flesh in a vaguely human shape. I saw that sight, which would be burned into my retinas for the rest of my life. And then I promptly began to throw up. So it's settled then, right? We're agreed? Nothing is settled. Yeah, sounds pretty settled to me. Predictably, after the smoke literally cleared, our group defaulted to our usual pastime, incessant bickering. The creepy music had stopped a while ago. It went without saying that the ritual had failed. Our one shot at skipping to the end of the stupid race blown. But that was really more of a secondary issue. The primary issue being that the exact circumstances had left us with a burning corpse. Clearly it was murder. Murder by arson. The question was, who did it? Up until this point, I'd mostly stayed silent in the corner. Even though in the past I'd tried to lead the group, I needed some time to take in everything that had just happened. Ox. He was the person I woke up with. The person I'd spent a lot of time with. He seemed reliable, like somebody you could depend on. For him to end up like this, well, at least I was holding up better than some people. But for Ox's sake, I couldn't just stand passively by any longer. I needed to help solve shit. It seemed, however, that the group had reached a conclusion without me. Now, horse, we don't want to start a fight over this, we just want to figure out what happened. Could you try explaining to us why you aren't the culprit? I'm not the culprit because I didn't kill anybody. Right, and? And? For him of all people to become the prime suspect. Ah, what a tragedy. This interrogation will be dreadfully dull. Sorry if I'm not amusing to you, Snake. Do you want me to juggle while I deny being a murderer? That's not necessary. That'd be pretty badass if you could pull it off. Indeed, it would be rather badass, wouldn't it? Well, so you can see where we were coming from though, right? Both Rooster and Sheep have confirmed you were standing up when things went down. You admitted it yourself. It's clear from the way that the flames went up that the culprit poured oil on Ox and lit him up. You were the only one who could have done it. I didn't. Compelling stuff. You're not even going to attempt to point out that there's still a significant amount of oil in the bucket? Why would I when you can do that for me? Because I'll also point out that we are unsure of the exact amount of oil that was in the bucket. So it's entirely possible you could have sloshed some on him. If you make points in your defense by yourself, I won't instantly know their weaknesses. Sounds annoying. If I have to, though. How exactly did I light the fire? Oh, now this is an interesting quandary. How was the fire started? If we're looking for ways to light things up, I saw Dragon take out this sick lighter earlier. Really gonna fucking narc on me like that, girl? I thought we were cool. Hey, no, wait, I didn't mean to... Couldn't he have just used a normal match or something? I don't see how this is an issue. I'm not disputing the object used to light the fire. I'm saying that if I lit something in front of me, you all would have seen that, right? Hey, Horse is right. I definitely would have seen the fire if the fire started small in the center of the room, then was tossed to Ox. The answer lies in just how flammable this oil is. Frankly, the fact that any amount of this was found at the school is distressing. A meeting of teachers should be called to discuss that. More to the point, it takes little to set a blaze. The igniter could be something as innocent as a particularly bad static shock. Coffee. Oh yeah, that's good. With the carpet in this room, surely it's possible that something to that effect was prepared. A static shock? Seriously? Perhaps it's not the most elegant solution, however it's passable. At any rate, your objection in itself is not enough to absolve you of the prime suspicion. This can't be. There's no way Horse would do this. I mean, I know he might not look like it, but he's actually really thoughtful. And do you really think if he was going to kill Ox, he'd do it in such an obvious way? Well, Sheep, Horse doesn't strike me as a man of subtlety. But he's not an idiot either. He wouldn't just do this. Okay, I'm hearing you, Sheep. Do you have an alternative explanation? Well, oh, I know, what if it was Rooster? Rooster? He was sitting next to Horse, right? But he was also sitting next to Monkey. Monkey's a traitor, so she might be okay with the plan to disrupt our unity. She says Rooster didn't let go of her hand, but she could be lying about that. So Rooster's also unaccounted for when the lights went out. I hate to cut in, Sheep, but I must say this is an absolutely ludicrous proposal. Have I not already proven myself trustworthy by confessing my wrong? I sincerely wish for nothing but the survival of the most people possible. I would tell you if Rooster let go of my hand. He did not. You could be lying. Admitting it earlier could be just a ruse. Or you changed your mind. Sheep, regardless of whether or not Monkey is lying, it can't be Rooster. Horse, you made your way to the stool, right? Correct. And you claimed the bucket was right in front of you. As far as I can tell. Then how would Rooster have gotten the oil on Ox? In that darkness, he somehow maneuvered around Horse and spilled oil on Ox without him or anyone else noticing. Seems entirely implausible. You're right, Snake. Hey, hold on. Who's counting me out? Who said what I can or can't do? I totally could have killed Ox. Nothing's holding me back. I could have just prepared my own container of oil beforehand and used that. I knew where Ox was sitting, so I could easily have thrown that oil on Ox without even leaving my seat. And where is this hypothetical container now? Easy, I hid it in a super secret hiding spot when everyone was running away. So what about that? Try saying I couldn't have done it now. Rooster's right, he's still a suspect. Rooster, would you please stop? We both know you couldn't have done this. Says so. Ever since we found the note, I've been with you. The note is when we learned about the oil. In fact, you're the only person who didn't have an opportunity to prepare another container of oil for this. So just stop and let us focus on the important things. Huh. I still could have done it if I really wanted to. So that's it then? We've settled on Horse as the culprit? Not so fast. Look at how Bunny is trying to fast track this. Fast track this? Fast track what? I just thought the conversation was over. We're out of suspects, right? Not true. There's someone else who could have set this all up, and that person is you. Pig over-dramatically stuck out her arm and pointed at Bunny. It was you! Bunny seemed unimpressed. Pig, what are you doing? What do you think? I'm exposing you. Really? Really? I don't know why you're all looking at me like that. I'm really right about this. Think back to the start of all this. Back at the beginning, the person who turned off the lights was Bunny. Then he went back to his seat. That's right, I did. Did you? Yes. Well, you might not have. You could have used that opportunity when all our eyes were readjusting to pour oil under Ox's chair. If you did it like that, he might not have noticed. Pour oil under Ox's chair? Pig, that's ridiculous. All of this is ridiculous. I'm just going along with the situation's tone and following suit. Something we should all be doing. Anyways, if Snake's thing about static electricity is correct, and that the oil was super flammable, it's possible that the fire, when the fire began, was a complete coincidence. You could have just waited patiently for it to start. But Pig, by your logic, couldn't any of the people who stood up have done it? I don't think so. Usually something like this would be noticeable. When the ritual started, our eyes had adjusted. We were used to the music and we were all on high alert. We would have noticed if someone deviated from script too much. But right after Bunny turned the lights off, it was pitch black. The music suddenly started playing. I think it's conceivable that Bunny could have made a move then. Seriously, no one's buying this, right? Bunny desperately looked around the room. I must say, the probability that this was the true answer is rather low. However, it's not so low that I can dismiss it outright. Apologies, Bunny, but I think Pig's story holds enough water to mark you as another suspect. Well, if this is how it needs to be. It seemed as though Bunny was also under suspicion, but could it really have been him? I couldn't put my finger on it, but something about Pig's versions of events just didn't sit right with me. If I could articulate that into words, I would, but the feeling was too vague for now. Alright, I'll bite. So our suspects are Bunny and Horse. Where does that leave us? Need you even ask? We already have a protocol for dealing with suspicious people. You don't mean... Hell yeah, I'll get more jump ropes. This really doesn't seem necessary. I don't need to go along with this. Note my compliance as a sign of my innocence. Of course, Horse. Of course, Horse. Tiger worked fast. Before I knew it, Bunny and Horse were tied tightly to their chairs. Honestly, I was doubtful about whether or not the restraints on Horse would really hold up if he tried to fight back, but it was the best we could do, given the circumstances. At the very least, Horse looked content. Bunny noticeably less so, but he wasn't speaking up. I realized it might be in poor taste to leave them tied up in the same room as the charred corpse, but they were already there. A little late for that. So that takes care of that. Before we proceed, might I re-suggest that we move in pairs? I know it may seem less risk than before, but my position on it hasn't changed. You need to be tied back up. This time nobody really wanted to fight Monkey on this. I guess seeing a dead body in person made people more people value security. Plus, the biggest opponent of that proposal was now lying on the floor. He wasn't in any position to be offering complaints. Everyone's being very flippant about this. Very well then, we'll group up. I'll go with Dragon. The how you will? What, not a fan of my company? Trust me, I'm a great conversationalist. Many can attest. That's a negative in my book. What do you even want to go with me anyway? In the case that I'm assaulted, I figured I'd choose the person who'd be most adequate to protect me. Well, that'd be Tiger. Hello, I'm right here. I stand by what I said. You know what? Fine, you can tag along. Just learn to shut up. Alright. He won't. Fine then, I guess I'll go with Sheep. Okay then. That's okay with me. Pig and I can watch Monkey. It'll be a pain to tie her up again, so she's already proven her worth. How thoughtful of you to say. I have no objection with this arrangement. Me neither. Being with a group of 3 works just fine for me. The math works for me better like that. Guess that means you're with me, Mouse. Guess that means you're with me, dog. You don't sound enthused. Matching your level. Fair enough. You're not going to be enthused? I'm not going to be enthused. Guys, one little objection that I'm realizing. How exactly we're supposed to input our moves for the rounds if we're tied up? Right. If we're tied up, we'll be unable to input our moves. Then we shall be executed. Which, gotta say, I don't love. Shit, they were right. Alright, that's an issue, isn't it? You know what? Mouse and I will make sure to swing by at the end of every round to let you handle it. That cool with you, Mouse? Yeah, sure, but... Monkey, you were tied up too. What happened with you? Ah, right, that. Luckily, Ox came to my aid before it was an issue. He allowed me to use my tablet freely before the end of each round. I must say, it was a good thing too. Had no one realized it, I would have been executed in quite an unfortunate manner. When I realized my predicament, I was already tied up. Needless to say, I was quite stressed before Ox showed up. Oh, sorry about that. It is in the past, now let us face the future. Let's. And just like that, the search of the school resumed once more. It was cruel to think that just a few minutes ago, I thought there'd be no need to do this anymore. But that shortcut had literally gone up in flames. Now he had to fear and scramble once more. Why? It had to be the desperate personality. They must have done it to avoid an instant loss. But then why kill Ox? That was a completely unnecessary step that only brought up more suspicion. If they wanted to stop the ritual, there must have been easier methods. Yeah, if we went off script at all, it immediately became void, right? For instance, I hadn't thought about it before, but couldn't someone have pricked their finger or simply not bled into the bucket? If they did that, it would have been impossible to tell who had deviated. Oh, there's a chance the music would have instantly ended the moment the ritual had conclusively failed. Something similar likely happened this time. Still, there had to be other ways. No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't rationalize things. Boy, do you look depressed. I looked up at Dog. We've been looking through an administration office on the 2nd floor. Well, I mean, duh. We were so close. We were almost done with this, and then it just got fucked up. Why wouldn't I be sad? No, it makes sense. It's just bringing the atmosphere down on you. Bringing the atmosphere down? I gotta say, Dog, you don't look particularly bothered by all of this. You barely spoke up back there. Yeah, well. You know what your issue is? What? You have hope. Oh, brother. No, actually, hear me out. I learned a long time ago that you can't really let a lot of emotions get to the wayside. And the one that hurt me the least to let go of was hope. It's a functionless feeling. I really don't need this conversation from some washed up emo. Yeah, I get that I'm not the person you would trust on something like this. But actually think about it for a second. What does hope ever get you? It's not a particularly enjoyable emotion all on its own. It's not unpleasant, but it's no substitute for actual happiness. But the main function of it is to create expectations. Expectations that are either fulfilled, which will make you content, or they won't be fulfilled, and you'll be crushed. Yeah, that's how life works, Doc. Very insightful. I'm just saying, if you don't bother with the expectations in the first place, you can learn to take things for how they are. You never get let down. I'm not saying to not try things, to improve things. When things go well, savor it. But don't expect things to go well. That way when they don't, you can just laugh at it. You know, it's funny. You almost sound convincing. Almost convincing, huh? You must have caught me on a good day. Anyway, the round end isn't too long from now. Wanna go check on Bunny and Horse? Let's. And just like that, we made our way back to the 3rd floor. As we opened the classroom door, I expected Bunny to be in a rather sour mood. What the hell? I suppose this is a pretty good counterpoint. Sometimes you think you don't have any expectations and life can still shoot lower. Well, not much you can do about that though. Would you shut up? Horse is dead. Indeed, as surprising as it was, Horse's body was splayed on the floor, on top of his toppled chair. Cause of death was obvious, a bullet right through his head. Why hadn't I heard a gunshot? Even more surprising than Horse was Bunny. All that was left for him was the ropes that previously had tied around him. In other words, he was gone. So he killed Horse and escaped. This isn't good. Boy oh boy, this is not good. Could you not laugh? Sorry, I'm actually sorry. Just a different way of coping. Bunny, he must have gotten free, killed Horse and escaped. So I guess he really did kill Ox then. Weird. I wasn't paying too much attention, but I thought Pig's story didn't make much sense. I don't know whether or not Bunny killed Ox. I do know he's loose and likely dangerous. Indeed. Although? It's nothing. You can't just say that. I mean, I can. Just spit out whatever you meant to say. Okay, jeez. All I was going to say was it's kind of weird that Horse's ropes were untied. After all, he was probably shot before he was untied, right? Then so, why untie a corpse? Good point. But it probably doesn't really matter all that much. Let's forget that for now. Like you said, the bigger point is the fact that Bunny's gone missing. Want to alert the others? Did I? Hold on, just wait a second. Okay, proceeding to wait a second. Dog seemed in no rush to alert the others. It was disturbing how passé he was acting about this, but for the time that worked to my advantage. Before, it didn't seem like such a big deal. However, now that we have confirmed the fact that there are more killings, we need to look at what happened with Ox closer. Right now, the obvious assumption would be that the killer is Bunny. But does that make sense? I don't know, does it? I don't think so. See, the problem with Bunny being the culprit is the way that Pig proposed it. He had no direct control of when the fire started. However, thinking back, the music suddenly got super loud before things went down, not after. That can't be a coincidence. Hey, you're right. Also, we have to factor in the noise that happened when things went down. For the sake of argument, Ox's shout of surprise could be him feeling the static shock happening below him. But I heard something else, something that sounded a lot like oil landing on Ox. So you're saying Horse was the culprit? I'm not saying that. If we're under the assumption that Horse did it, it doesn't make sense for Bunny to kill Horse and flee. So what are you saying? I'm saying Bunny might not have escaped. He might also be dead. I let the words hang in the air. I expected some acknowledgement from Dog, perhaps a look of surprise. But instead he looked me in the eyes and answered me at my own level. If that's the case, Mouse, then why kill Horse? Huh? Your theory goes that if Bunny isn't the killer and neither is the Horse, then it must be someone else. Someone else killed Horse and then hid Bunny's body to make it look like he escaped? Am I understanding you correctly? That's the gist of what I'm getting at, yeah. But everyone agreed that the suspicions cast on Horse held a lot more water than those cast on Bunny. People would buy Horse killing Bunny and escaping as the true killer a lot better than they'd buy Bunny doing that. So why set it up like this? I couldn't give Dog the answer I was looking for, because Bunny's easier to move, Horse is giant. It was a minor problem, but a surprisingly critical one. What could the explanation be? So now we can tell the others? I thought some more about the ritual. How perfect a crime it was. How well it was set up. And yet how amateurish certain elements of it felt. That contrast. If the killer wasn't Horse and it wasn't Bunny, there had to be someone else who could have poured the oil on Ox and lit him on fire. Thinking about the setup, there was one place I need to check in order to uncover the full truth of this incident. Where to look? I am assuming below the body. Save. I don't know where we're going back to actually after this. For the next episode, but we'll figure it out. Below the body. The answer had to be somewhere in the crime scene. Beneath the smouldering wreck of a body lay vital clues. I knew it. And so I got to work. It was not appealing work. Moving the corpse in this instance wasn't as simple as rolling it over. I actually had to move chunks out of the way. I felt like barfing. I would kill for a pair of gloves or something to help, but slowly and surely, I made my way through the wreck. At the bottom there'd be anything that could light the way. Before long, Dog spoke up. Mouse? You keep doing what you're doing, but I'm gonna go inform the others about this. Yeah, you do that. I shooed him away, more focused on solving the case. I paid little mind when I heard the sound of footsteps leaving the room. And unfortunately, I also paid little mind when I heard the sound of footsteps entering the room. Well, in a vacuum, that wouldn't be suspicious. But only one set of them? In this context? I really should have seen it coming. Instead, my back was entirely turned to my assailant. And that was a mistake I simply couldn't get away with making. 10 seconds after the footsteps had entered the room, I was on the ground bleeding. 30 seconds after they'd entered the room, I was dead. 250 seconds after they entered, more footsteps entered the room to find my corpse. Mouse's fate in this timeline is surprisingly complex. The reason for her murder doesn't become clear unless you look at the entire board of dominoes. However, one way or another, she will definitely become the target if she wastes too much time at the crime scene. For perhaps obvious reasons, this path is no good for our long-term sustainability, and so to keep searching for a better line of play. Alright, we're going to reload from here. That clue makes me suggest that we should leave the room, but We don't have that option. Let's try somewhere else in the room. The answer had to lie in this room. I just didn't know where. Frustrated, I started looking around. I wasn't looking somewhere in particular, just poking around any place that could be considered spacious. I was familiar with the layout of the room. I'd already searched through it before, so I was sure I could find any secret that may lie dormant in a nook or cranny. Before long, Dog spoke up. Mouse? And Skip. Same again. Right. Loaded up and above the body. If Horse didn't throw oil on Ox, nobody could have, which means the oil didn't come from a person. It came from the ceiling. Was this conclusion absolutely absurd? Yes. Did I know how it tied in with anything else? No. But when you eliminate the impossible, all that's left, however improbable, is the truth. I guess. Honestly, the moment I got to work, I started to feel a little dumb. But there wasn't time to hesitate. There were clues pointing to this conclusion. I just had to trust my instincts and follow the lead through. And so I pulled over a desk, climbed onto it, and looked up at the ceiling tiles. Sure enough, there was one directly above where Ox had been sitting. And wouldn't you know it, looking closely, it looked like 3 or 4 of the sides were already broken off. I reached up and with a simple push I was able to loosen the tile. It swung down, only holding on by a single side. And so, and to both my surprise and delight, on the other side of the tile, I saw oil stains. Oil had definitely been poured on top of this tile at some point. I poked my head around a bit, and thought I saw something sitting in the area above the ceiling tiles. I reached around and pulled down what ended up being a speaker. A speaker? It looked like the type a high schooler would keep, perhaps in their locker. Hooked up to it was some sort of MP3. I looked around the speaker some more and noticed that there was a slot into it. A slot that could perhaps hold a portable remote. Okay, just one more thing to confirm. I took out the MP3 and looked at the songs. Sure enough, the one that was playing on loop matched the song that had previously been playing during the ritual. With this, the mystery had been solved. The way in which Ox met his end had been illuminated to me, and there was exactly one person who had the opportunity to settle this up. That's the whodunit and the howdunit. The whydunit I was still unsure, but generally the culprit got to supply that themselves. For now, there's a bigger issue. Thinking about it carefully, from this position, that person's next step should be... Dog, quickly. Do you know where Dragon and Rooster went to look? Dragon and Rooster, huh? I thought I saw that pair head towards a hallway on the second floor. Why, what's wrong? A lot. Find Tiger as soon as possible, and get her to come to the second floor. I'll do what I can in the meantime. This is urgent, Dog, do you understand me? Copying loud and clear. I'll put some pep into my step. Dog and I ran out of the classroom and split up. I could only hope I would get there in time. I ran down the second floor through the hallways towards where I hoped they would be. I glanced in classroom after classroom until I finally saw the scene I was looking for. Dragon on the floor with their fists clenched and looking pissed as hell. Standing above her was Rooster, holding a silenced pistol aimed at her. It seemed as though I'd made it just in time. He wrote the note to get us to make the ritual in the first place. Without a second thought, I bolted into the classroom. Rooster, stop! Oh, Mouse. Good thing you're here. You can help me with this. Wait, what? Help with what? Containing you, of course. I was minding my own business, and all of a sudden you attacked me. Good thing I found this discarded gun in a hallway a little bit ago, or I'd really be screwed. The hell? That's not how it went at all. I was the one just minding my own business before he just up and attacked me for no good reason. Mouse, I'm the victim here. You gotta believe me. I know, Dragon. You do? I do. Hey, why's that? You really don't trust me, Mouse? I did, Rooster, until I put it all together. Put it together? Mouse, you're being awfully vague right now. Mind letting me in on whatever big revelation you've had? Okay, I will. Rooster, you're the one who killed Ox. You also killed Bunny and Horse. The hell? Is this right? Honestly, I could hardly believe it either. Could Rooster, that moronic, pompous douchebag, pull something as ruthless and calculated as this? It completely went against my image of him. But this is where the evidence led me to. From here, I could only let my logic guide me. Interesting hypoth, Mouse. Loving your energy. You're really portraying the misguided vigilante role well. Nice stance. Nice diction. You ever considered acting? You think I'm acting right now? Well, I think you're acting out of line. Ayo! Rooster. Look, okay, I get it. You're like a detective or whatever, that's your shtick. And that's a cool shtick, I love your shtick. But you gotta pick a time and a place for it. There are cool times to use your shtick, and lame times to use it. Oh, I'm pulling out my shtick. Just as a handy guide. Cool times to use the detective shtick. Accusing commoners, pointing at people, walking away from a bomb. Lame times to use the detective shtick, accusing me, being racist. Just to give you a quick rundown. Rooster, I beg of you, please let me do my explanation. Oh, you were trying to start a monologue? And by all means, go ahead. Floor is yours. Thank you. As I was saying, Rooster, you're the one who rigged Ox's death trap. You broke the ceiling tile above where he was going to sit. You broke 3 sides of it, so that it would dangle down. Then you placed some kid's speaker up in the ceiling, set the music on the MP3 to be real creepy, and took a remote for it. You poured a decent amount of oil on the tile, and then you delicately set it up, where it was sitting safely. Flash forward to the actual ritual, the person who turns on the music is you. Depending on where you put that remote, you could probably hit play without needing a free hand. Then when Horse was up doing his thing, you cranked up the volume drastically. The sudden vibrations on the ceiling made the tile come loose, spilling the oil all over Ox. To get it so that the tile would come loose at the volume, you might have practiced it a few times before spilling the oil on the tile. Regardless, right after the oil had fallen on Ox, you threw a statically charged something at Ox. I can't even begin to guess at what that was, but whatever it was, it worked. Ox was lit on fire, everyone panicked and fled. And in the darkness and brightness and chaos, nobody even noticed when you knocked the tile back up into the ceiling as you fled. Judging by the positions in the circle, you'd have to have been one of the people in the back of the room, so there weren't really any eyes on you, since everyone else had already fled. You know, I totally could have done all that. I mean, some might say something stupid like, "Hey Rooster, how'd you have time to set up any of that up when Mouse was watching?" But they underestimate my speed. See, the key was when you wandered down that hallway in the generator room. Again, I beg you to shut up. Rooster, the reason you were able to pull something this ridiculous off is because you set the stage for it perfectly. The ritual was perfect for you, turning off the lights, supplying the weapons, guaranteeing where everyone would be seated with precision and accuracy. But on the other hand, there was a number of things weird about it. Why was this the only note written in blood? Would Brian really give us a task that would let us skip the rest of his game? Why change up the order of where everyone sat? It all makes sense if you assume that the whole thing was nothing more than your script. So now I'm giving Brian the orders? Not at all. You simply found the safe first, you saw its true contents, emptied them, and planned to use the safe to your own ends. You needed to make it believable, which is why you put the needle in the safe, a needle you probably got from the nurse's office, and why you made it sound like such a cryptic ritual. And then once everything was set up, you waited for a mark to discover the ritual with you, and act as your alibi up until that point. Making use of our blind faith in whatever we found in the safe. Clever stuff, I gotta say. However, even you couldn't disguise it perfectly. All the other notes were printed out, but you couldn't copy that, which is why you went to the next best thing, a note written in blood. If dramatic enough, we could conceivably think the difference is no more than mere artistic license. But where'd you get the blood? I bet if we were to give you a body check, we'd find that you were hiding a wound. If you really wanted to feel me out, Mouse, all you had to do was ask politely. But wait, you said he also killed Bunny and Horse? What's the story on that? Yes, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Dragon? Horse and Bunny have both been killed. Of course, you wouldn't get that right away by looking at the scene. Bunny went missing, while Horse was shot through the head, probably with the pistol Rooster is currently holding. But you just hid Bunny's corpse, didn't you, Rooster? At first I was curious why you went about things like that. However, thinking about it a little more, I realised it needed to be done. Horse was an incredibly dangerous opponent, even tied up like he was. It was just a matter of killing both, then it would have been a problem. However, if you shot both, the blood would have given it away, and you could pin your crimes on the escapee. You had to strangle the person you didn't shoot, and strangling Horse seems like an iffy proposal. Odds are he'd break the chair apart before you could choke him out. So when you walk in the room, you start by shooting Horse. Then you untie the rope from his body so you can use it to strangle Bunny. After that, you untie Bunny's corpse and drag it to some nearby hiding spot. Perhaps in some classroom. Now tell me, Dragon, did Rooster ever leave your sight during the search? Yeah, now that you mention it, he did. He went to use the restroom. I didn't think much of it at the time, so I just let him go. But thinking about it, you used that time to kill those two, weren't you, you bastard? Rooster's departure from Dragon would naturally have come out in the questioning after the bodies were discovered, which is why Rooster planned on cleaning up loose ends before that happened. You planned on killing Dragon here and coming up with some story about Bunny attacking Dragon before fleeing, weren't you? That's why he attacked you, Dragon. You really think that's the reason, Mouse? Right. And the reason I killed the others? Why, is it because I have the desperate personality and want to survive by myself? Is that not the case? Truthfully, I'd been thinking to myself, were that the case, Rooster's actions would have been rather strange. Alright, let's cut the crap, Mouse. In that moment I realised I hadn't been giving Rooster enough credit. He really was a talented actor. You know, you're a really smart girl. I'm impressed truly that you figured so much out. But it looks like you didn't figure the why out. How could you? Let me be clear, this All of this wasn't driven by Brian. If anything, I should be grateful to Brian. He gave me a chance for revenge. Revenge? Do you think I made Bunny and Horse the suspects haphazardly? Do you think I partnered with Dragon on a whim? Everything I've done until now has been to get revenge on the 4 people who ruined my life. Risa, what are you talking about? You know, I came from a rich family. I could have guessed as much. Came from a rich family. I shan't mince words. It was nice. A charmed existence. You know what was great about being wealthy? It wasn't living in a mansion, or having nice food. You tire of those things awful quickly. No, what's great is the freedom it provides. When I realized my calling in life, I knew what to do. My parents paid for acting classes, took me to see movies, set me up perfectly. I was in control of my life. I could do what I wanted without interruption, until my damn conscience got in the way. See, my parents were always influential in politics. I never quite saw eye to eye with them on many things, but I learned to turn my head. But lately, they were making stranger and worse decisions than before, using their influence in ways that I had larger disagreements with, and eventually it became too much. There was a set of legislation that empowered the police in our city massively. It expanded the force that they could use, gave them wider access to methods of surveillance, lowered restrictions needed for warrants. The laws were horrible, flagrantly disrespecting human rights. Yeah, I remember those laws. They passed. You can thank the generous support from my parents for that. Well, that was the tipping point. I'd had enough. Me and my parents got in a huge blowout fight over the matter, and before I knew it I was kicked out, disinherited and penniless. From heaven to hell, just like that. But you got in an argument with your parents and they cut you out of their life? I said they were generous parents, not that they were caring. There's a difference. After living it good for so long, to fall so low. To go from living with complete freedom to being at the mercy of society. You don't know how it feels to survive that whiplash. You're right, I don't. The fuck's this got to do with anything? But gallantly I survived. I kept pushing. In the face of it all, I pursued my dream of becoming a lead actor. And slowly but surely that dream progressed. I'll admit it's been a thorny patch so far, but it's honestly begun to pick up steam. I thought I could move past that chapter of my life. But I never forgot what brought me here. I never stopped wondering why my parents would do what they did. For all their flaws, they weren't bad people, so I kept pestering them about it. One drunken phone call from my mother later, I got the real story. I knew who to actually be mad at. See, my parents never actually wanted to support that insidious bill, they were just being blackmailed to do it. Turns out some people in higher places had gotten some material on them. Long story short, they were under the thumb of higher powers. Higher powers? The city's rotten, Mouse. It's empty at its core. I can't say I know everything, but there's something big at play. A huge blackmailing scheme with most of the city's power players wrapped up in it. The police were suspicious that I stormed into Amadeus Bowen's office on the day of his murder. They were always suspicious of my story. Do you want to know the real reason I was there? It's because I was looking for documents that would prove his connections to the blackmailing ring. You mean Amadeus Bowen was involved in the ring? Involved? Pal, he was one of the kingpins. Though I guess you can only blackmail people for so long before it bites you on the ass. Anyways, when I was at his office, I saw he had contracted a construction worker for some private business. By construction worker you mean horse. Exactly. Turns out that big old thug was on Bowen's payroll. Probably did his dirty work if I had to guess. I followed Morris's trial closely. And the thing that also stunk to high heaven. Why wouldn't it? Clearly the others involved with the blackmailing ring wanted to hide certain elements of the murder. From what I could tell, the main prosecutor of the case and the chief officer handling the case both had to be in on it. Bunny and Ox. Exactly. Horse, Bunny and Ox. All three of them are agents of the city's darkest underside. They weren't just responsible for my rough years, my parents' grief, but countless other injustices and evils. So when presented with the perfect opportunity, how could I pass it up? Who other than I would take this opportunity to rid the world of these evildoers? So that was your plan? Erase anyone connected with this blackmailing ring? Exactly. Initially I wasn't planning on doing anything. Just focusing on my own survival was good enough. Don't get involved, don't do anything stupid. But the more I thought about it, I soon realized now was my only chance. The chaos and darkness of this race will erase what happens here. The truth will be written by the survivors, as you always say. So then, where does Dragon fit into all this? Huh, Dragon. She's the biggest sinner of all. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? See, I refer to my parents in the past tense for a reason. They were recently killed in a hit and run. Perhaps it was an accident. More likely a murder. Maybe it had something to do with their recent defections from the blackmailing group. All I know is what I saw. And as the person who was visiting them at the time of the accident, I saw the person who drove away from the crime scene. I saw Dragon. What the hell? That wasn't me. Yes, it was. When I saw you go up close, I recognized you right away. You were definitely the person I saw that day. And you must work for the blackmailing ring too. That's why you did what you did. You crazy son of a bitch. You're lying. I haven't killed anyone. You're lying about the whole thing. Listen, Mouse. This guy's selling one big story to cover his ass and gain sympathy from you. You really gonna stand here and listen to this? Mouse, I realize what this might look like to you. I know I've been deceiving you. I know I've killed 3 people already. But knowing what I told you, can you really say I'm wrong? Look me in the eye and tell me that these people don't deserve to die, that we wouldn't be doing the world a service by getting rid of them. I'm not the villain here, Mouse, I'm the hero. You're the psychotic bastard is what you are. Mouse, fucking deck this fool. I stood there frozen. I took in everything I heard. Ultimately... Oh my god, I don't want to kill anyone. Save. No one here deserves to die. Hey, here's a hot take, but maybe we shouldn't be killing anyone right now? Huh? Huh? Are you seriously both looking at me confused? Look, Rooster, I know you saw Dragon kill your parents. Dragon, I know Rooster here has already killed 3 people, but let's calmly look at the situation right now. We're currently in a death game with our very lives at stake, and since Rooster wasn't the traitor, there's still one unknown enemy out there. Frankly, we can settle everything else once we take off our collars. But for now, while our asses are on the line, how about we refrain from passing judgment and just get our shit together? Can both of you do that for me? Dragon and Rooster both went silent. They didn't quite know how to respond to that. I wasn't quite sure what came over me just then, but it felt good. I mean, I'm not the one trying to kill anyone. If Rooster lowers his gun, we ain't gonna have any problems. Very well. I've already gotten 3/4 of my revenge. 3/4. That will simply have to suffice. You're right. We now have to face the game together. With that, Rooster lowered his gun. Good. Now very calmly, let's all make our way to the cafeteria. We'll discuss what to do next there as a group. Slowly, Dragon made her way to her feet. We all began to make our way to the door. Just as I turned to start walking to the cafeteria, however, Dragon made her move. Apparently she was just bluffing about the ceasefire. She grabbed a nearby pen and immediately tried to stab Rooster through the neck with it. This is an endeavour she succeeded in, but not without a cost. See, Rooster hadn't completely let go of the gun. Right as Dragon stabbed through her, he had the sense to pull the pistol out and shoot her right through the chest. Dragon's body collapsed onto Rooster's and the two began to bleed out together, one on top of the other. It was a truly grotesque sight, but it was almost poignant in a way. In the end, the two had taken each other out in a mutual act of hatred and petty revenge. Tragic. When the group caught up with me, they saw me staring at the bodies with a blank look on my face. Not sure how long I had stood there, looking at the scene, but it was long enough that the image and the lesson would forever be seared into my brain. Well, it seems to be finally over. All's well that ends well, right? How exactly is all's well? I guess that's not right, but you know, we're not dead. That's something. That's something, alright. After the incident with Rooster, things have been going smoothly. We gathered enough minor trinkets and we were now using them to get to the end of the board incredibly quickly. If all went as planned, this would be the last round. You know what sucks about this the most? Is that we can't even blame this one on Brian. If someone with one of the fucked up personalities did something, it would be lame, but at least we could throw blame elsewhere. But here, this is nothing more than human malice. 5 people had died because of something so petty. You call Rooster's story petty? I don't really let the others in on what Rooster had said. I guess that's not the right word for it. If it's true, then it might be the most fucked up part of all this. But still, for things to culminate in mass murder? For things to have planned out like this, to drive Rooster into murdering those 4, I guess is the price the sin of sloth takes. Huh? Forget it. What's done is done. If Rooster has taught us anything, it's to let the past lie in the past. We can only walk forwards after all. Is that the lesson to take from this? Should you just forgive and forget? Is revenge always a pointless task? Was Rooster nothing more than a senseless murderer? These questions weren't easy to answer. Luckily for me, I had plenty of time to wrestle with them. In the end, everyone alive crossed the finish line together. Monkey was executed, as was one other person. The one with the desperate personality trait. You're not going to tell me who it is. Even in the end, they didn't admit it. They let their collar confess for them. But they also never took any action against the group. They just did their part and then died in the end. As to why they did it, it's not hard to guess. But why linger in the past? In the end, only 5 of us got out of the school alive. And from here, that survivor count could only go down, not up. Jack of Spades. There's a path where Rooster's desire for revenge will awaken. Nothing good can come of it. While he's far cleverer than most would notice, his act could only take him so far. In all likelihood, Mouse would eventually catch him, resulting in inevitable mutual bloodshed. Ultimately, the simple answer is to not let him indulge himself like that. Revenge is messy. The true path should be clean. And with that, we need to wrap it up. We've got 2 more options to do from that save point. And then I don't know where we're going back to, but I'm sure we'll figure it out at some point. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.